being with us on
My
the house
pleasure.
and enjoying this very large drink with us.
Oh, it's great.
The drinks will keep flowing, so don't worry about it. We can go as fast as you'd like to.
That.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect. So we generally start this conversation with one question, and everything else is free flowing, right? That one question is, what is that one question that you're sick and tired of answering?
How long is this going to last?
The what? The bubble, the so-called
Well, it's not
bubble,
a bubble.
or
I mean, it's not a bubble. The growth.
the growth. Okay.
I mean, you know, no one, I think, from our generation, from my generation, not yours, has seen this much growth go on for so long at such a fast pace, and you know, everybody's kind of not used to this,
Yeah.
right? This is not Singapore. This is not, you know, Hong Kong. So certainly, you know, something strange has to be happening.
So how does business up go in these cases when you're like everything's looking up and there's no signs of slowing down? How does
we plan for the future, but we're always ready, you know, for you know, whatever eventualities might come our way, as best as we can.
And how do you define the future in times like today, where, you know, a few decades ago they would talk about a 10-year plan.
Right.
Today things are moving a lot faster than that.
Well, I mean, it's difficult to plan with any degree of accuracy. I think beyond 5 years. Having a vision is easy, and you can go, you know, 50 years. But a business plan, you know, 5 years, that's about as far as we can go. And so far, everything's looking pretty good.
Have you been with real estate all along, Tom?
Almost 30 years.
Okay. And how do you define it being evolved along every decade and now maybe every couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, other than new materials and new technologies, real estate does not change fundamentally, I think, from one generation to the other. A condominium that was developed, you know, maybe 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
you could walk into it and it would all look, you know, very familiar,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everything works the same way. It doesn't change physically very much, you know, unlike your business, right? I think what changes more are the preferences of the people who are starting to buy, right? And one of the things that we're looking at is the millennials, right? They are the oldest millennials, I think, are probably in their mid-30s. Yeah. They've been in the market for, you know, for maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
The next generation, like Gen Z, what are they going to be like? You know, do they look at a home the same way that you know, my generation looked at it, or, you know, our parents' generation looked at it?
I think the concept of a kitchen's going to go away.
You think so?
For sure.
Home delivery?
For sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think cooking at home is going to become quite an archaic conversation. I think if options of food and preferences come to your doorstep, maybe you do more with your time than just cook.
Sure, and I see that, you know, but there's something special, you know, when you come home and you open the door and home has, you know, it smells like cookies, or it smells like, I mean, you know, someone's been busy in the kitchen.
True.
Right?
I guess those people in the kitchen are kind of moving out of the kitchen now, so things are changing a little bit.
I guess.
We don't know. I think it's
Yeah.
just talking about condominiums, smaller unit sizes.
Right.
You prefer more living space
Right.
maybe than a kitchen.
Well, you know, but this is what's fascinating about, you know, designing things for the next generation.
Yeah.
What are they going to want?
Yeah.
Right?
I think the fascinating question for me next is 30 years in real estate. If it wasn't real estate, what would you be doing?
Oh, that's easy.
Oh, that's easy.
Oh, that's easy. Yes,
Okay.
yes. I would have been a marine biologist.
Nice. Where is that coming from? Is that something you just pulled out of a hat?
No. I've always been fascinated by what's under the sea.
Okay, so
Yeah.
marine biologist.
Yeah.
And did you take any baby steps in that direction, or
None whatsoever.
what would you have done differently to be a marine biologist?
I guess I would have gotten a degree, and I would have had to do that outside of the Philippines. Real estate came calling as an accident.
Okay.
By training, my background is finance.
Mm-hmm.
So I had planned to build a career in finance and banking. But I had the opportunity to work with a real estate company, and I said, yeah, why not? Started it and fell in love with real estate, and I've been there ever since.
What did you do? What was the first thing you did in real estate? Was it sales? Was it?
First thing I did
finance?
was retail.
Mm-hmm.
So the company I was working for at the time, had fairly extensive holdings in retail spaces. So I was managing retail spaces, and then after that I did commercial offices. After that I did land development, and then condominium development, and every stage just got more and more exciting. There's a pleasure in doing development that you start with an idea, and you put that idea on a piece of paper, and you work very, very hard, and a year or so later you start digging the foundations for it, and then after a few years it's there, and I tell a lot of people, because I go to schools, colleges, and talk to people about careers in real estate. Real estate, you work at it, and the vision that you fought for is all of a sudden it's there in glass and steel and concrete, and it's
has
there.
People inside.
It has people
living
inside it, right? You're changing lives, right? You're making office spaces for people to do great things. You're making retail spaces for people to enjoy as families. You're making homes for people. It's a privilege. Thankfully, there are people who I mean, even in the millennials and the Gen Z, who see value in the permanence of certain things.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of one's career, you will leave something behind. And there is nothing, more satisfying to leave behind than something that has maybe become, if you're lucky, it's become a landmark.
Yeah.
Right? If you're, and even if you're not that lucky to do something iconic, you have provided like a home, for someone, and families will have fond memories of what that is, not knowing that you were part of the team that provided it. It's extremely satisfying.
Do you have a team with a lot of millennials now, or?
Our team is actually changing. It's
okay.
I would say a lot of the people that we're getting right now, by default, they have to be millennials, because these are the guys that are joining the the workforce. Yeah.
And how are you preparing for that change? I mean, it's a difficult question. I don't know if too many people have cracked it.
The best that I can do is to give them as much information, as much knowledge as I can. I mean, this is what I know, and hopefully it will serve them well for a few years. But undoubtedly, the next generation will come up with amazing ideas, something that my generation never thought about, and I'm sure we will all be very impressed.
And how do you embrace that when somebody comes with a radically different idea from your core belief?
I love it.
Yeah.
My personal policy is this is not a new thing. It is a sort of radical honesty, right? I encourage people to speak their mind, whether or not they agree with me or they agree with their peers. I think the worst thing that we can do is to stifle creativity, use rank to control things. No, I mean, if you look at from one generation to the other, typically they look at the younger generation and they say, I have to intervene. Especially parents to children, right? You're making bad decisions. You're going to do it my way, or you're going to be cut off, right? And that's typical.
Yeah.
If you go back far enough in history, you'll see something very interesting. Now, parents today, how do they describe their children, right? They're foolish, they're reckless, right? You know, dreamers, right? But if you go back far enough in history, and you look at someone like, say, Alexander the Great,
Mm-hmm.
he was winning wars when he was 20. Joan of Arc was leading an army when she was 17. I mean, I can name people from history at very young ages. They did things that changed the world, and they changed the world because they were reckless, because they were brash, because they were foolhardy. They dared to do things that the older generation thought was ridiculous. Every generation needs its crazy people,
Yeah, no, of
right?
course, yeah.
People who will push the boundaries and who dare to change the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for those people. I want to bring them into our organization.
And how do you feel like you attract those kind of people? Like, what is it that you put out there saying, we need you?
Now, when they come to the office, I want to make sure that they feel that they are spending their time doing something useful,
Yeah?
right? And the only way to do that is to give them a voice in the decisions that we are making.
Mm-hmm.
I think assuming that a young person can't have great ideas is a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I encourage.
Perfect. And how do you deal with ownership? How do you deal with mistakes? That's the hardest piece, right? The biggest scare and fear for everyone is
Yeah.
a person's gonna mess up and
Yes.
then I'll have to go clean their mess up.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a given.
Yeah.
People make mistakes, organizations make mistakes. And if you are, I guess, bold enough to try something new, you might make more mistakes than others,
Yeah.
right? But you need to be able to sort of calculate the mistake before it happens. So if
Mhm.
you're doing something new, you realize, okay, this is new, this may or may not work.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, okay, this is what we're going to do. And that's what you must do in order to make sure that mistakes become learning opportunities rather than disasters.
Okay. And what about the rest of the team? I'm sure you have a lot of other team members, senior management, who potentially have to get on the same boat as you, right?
Right.
Like everybody's not channeled this way.
Right.
How do you make sure their risk-taking capabilities are in sync with you?
Well, what I do encourage is a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's in informal meetings or informal gatherings, and
Yeah.
much of the time it's the informal gatherings
Mhm.
over a scotch which are more useful
Yeah.
than formal meetings.
Yeah.
Good or bad, I want to know what's going on, right? So I let people know that it's okay to share bad news. It's okay to share your concerns. It's okay to disagree. What's important is we talk about it and we fix it.
How do you channel all of this to saying, yes, we're having fun and there's an open discussion, but here's the line, and after this it means business? Or is that line not around?
Well, I mean, the line is always there, right? But any kind of working relationship doesn't have to be scary,
Yeah.
right? Again, I would have to go back to encouraging people to tell me exactly what they think,
Mm-hmm.
and to know that I will not take it against anyone
Mhm.
if they disagree. At the end of the day, there are certain decisions which I have to make,
Yeah.
and I will
Sure.
balance things out and try to make the best decision, which is not customer first, and then the team,
Yeah.
and then the company.
Yeah. Okay.
In that order.
Okay, that's great. What do you feel like is the biggest question you dabble with today outside of work? Are there questions you ask about climate change? Are there questions you ask about something else? I don't know. Or do you not take like that serious? Existential questions, yes.
I'm a bit of a nerd, I guess,
Okay.
in the sense that I'm an amateur psychologist.
Okay.
I'm an amateur economist, and maybe amateur philosopher.
Okay.
A
good mix of everything.
Yeah, I mean, I like, when I'm not working, I like having, these kinds of discussions with like-minded people who can, sort of challenge, my ideas, their ideas. It's for me, it's a night well spent.
Yeah. A good conversation over a drink.
Good conversation. Yeah.
So which is your favorite default topic?
Human behavior.
Okay.
Right. Why do people do what they do?
Okay.
As both as individuals and as communities or as countries. Why is this the hot topic over there? What is happening over there that's sort of driving this thing? It's fascinating for me.
So maybe taking an offshoot out of that, right? What do you think technology is doing to humankind? Let's talk about the internet. Technology is too broad, but the internet, just being connected.
It's not a new idea. I worry a lot about what happens on social media, right? How everyone seems to be driving Lamborghinis and going to the Maldives for their summer vacation.
Everyone has a better life than me.
Yes, it's not real, and I worry about the generation that looks at that and thinks, I need to be doing that.
Would you tell somebody who's maybe in their 20s today that saving is important? Learn how to save.
Absolutely.
So what would you say? What is that percentage that you would advise any 20-year-old to save?
Well, here's
like a vague number.
See, here's the thing, right? As a policy, I never give life advice to anyone, and it may work out for them, it may not. I would much rather let people know that this is what could happen if you say yes. This is what could happen if you say no. Now be an adult and choose. You talk to people. You talk to your peers. You talk to your parents. You talk to someone who maybe has gone through it before. But you are ultimately responsible for your own life, right? So you have to choose, and whether your choice works out or fails, the next part of adulting
kicks in then.
It kicks in then, right? I mean,
wow, you're like a little bit of like hard love, and you're like, listen, you have to figure this out yourself, my friend.
But isn't that the way the world works, right?
A little bit of guidance would be nice.
Right, no, exactly. I'm all for giving guidance,
yeah.
but I will not suggest
save 30% of your salary.
Exactly.
Okay. No, it's true. I think all of us have to make our life decisions.
Right.
We know deep down, we all know what we want and what we need.
Yes, figuring out how to get it.
Figuring out how to get it.
That's the thing, right?
Wow. With that mic drop statement.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for chatting with us this evening.
My pleasure.
It was great having a drink with you.
Thank you.